Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. I am welcoming to the show bright and early on a Monday morning the amazing Christian Rebernik. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Thank you very much, Belinda. Beautiful to be
Thank,
here.
thank you. And call me B. Belinda sounds so serious. I mean, it is my official name, but I am a B. And you are based in Berlin. I went to Berlin, gosh, I think over 25, 26 years ago, but I loved that city then, and I could only imagine how much has progressed since then. Like it was just an incredible city with an incredible amount of energy and vibe, and what you're doing in terms of what you're doing with your business just sounds like you're in such the right place in Berlin, because I can just imagine what it looks like and what it feels like to be there today. So, without further ado, Christian, you are the co-founder and co-CEO of Tomorrow University. And when you and I first connected, I was like, Tomorrow University, it sounds so new and so new paradigm and a new world, and I love all of that. And basically, Tomorrow University is of applied sciences. So it's a state recognized remote first university focused on sustainability, entrepreneurship, and technology. Great combination there. You were a long-time product tech leader. You were ex N26 CTO. So I'll get you to share what that means as well. Excuse my not understanding. And you're building challenge-based, mission-driven degree programs for impact-orientated leaders. My take on that is there for these leaders that are going to continue to trailblaze into this new paradigm we're in. But before I hand it over to you, I do want to call out your insight when you booked in for the pod as well, or your unique lived experience and or insight when it came to life leadership and or business. And you said one unique insight I've learned is that progress, whether in life leadership or building a company, happens when you combine radical clarity with deep humanity. As a founder, I've led teams through hypergrowth and crisis, and the constant lesson is this: people don't follow strategies, they follow purpose. When you help someone understand why they do what they do and create the environment for them to grow into it, their potential expands far beyond what any job description or KPI could capture. The belief is the foundation of Tomorrow University. When people connect their personal mission with the skills of the future, they don't just adapt to change, they shape it. So formless, so be formless. I absolutely love it. I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us how you came to co-found and co-CEO Tomorrow University.
So thank you very much. It's really beautiful to be here and talk about this, and hopefully inspire more people to be really purpose driven, and really root what they are doing and their why. Um, and maybe the journey starts really with my own education, because when I went to study economics, for me it was just attending the classes, and I was just learning for the next exam, and it was not motivating at all, which led to that also I doing the exams but not really learning. So I just learned for exam, but it just was short-term memory, nothing for really understanding how the world works. Yeah. And I was quite frustrated, so that eventually also I dropped out of university, and I think that's a pity, because on the other hand side, there was actually also a couple of things which I think would have been very beneficial for myself. Yeah, so I had to also go the hard way and really try to learn a lot of the things myself, and um, this shaped me, because it's a lot of things really throughout. I had to learn it the hard way by try and error, practice things, searching for the right people to tell me how to do things. And um, yeah, and this was one of my frustrations, but time has passed, and luckily I had some very interesting things I could have done, like N26, which is a unicorn bank here from Germany, which is in Europe available, where I was CTO. But when I thought I have three kids, and my three kids actually, when they went to school in the pandemic, they were sent to homeschooling, and I was working. And on the other side of the table, my son was sitting, and he had a class about history, about Berlin. And you just mentioned it. You have been to Berlin yourself. It has a very rich history
Oh my
of
gosh, so
this
much.
divide,
Mm.
been left and right, and how this was actually living in one city, but actually two countries and two cultures, literally. Um, and in this class and you're sitting on the other side, he was with every minute going down in his chair a little bit more, until he eventually fell asleep
How
during
old
a
was he,
class, just sitting
Christian?
in front of me.
Sorry, how old was
Pardon?
he? How old was he? Like, how old was he when you
He was
said?
back, he was something like 12,
Oh, okay.
around then.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating for me, to see this. And I thought, the learning hasn't changed.
No.
It hasn't changed. It's still the same thing. We're still doing the same thing. But our world has changed. Just looking at my own career, the jobs which I've done, they didn't exist back then. Um, the internet books, libraries, which everything the schools is designed for. We have now the internet, we have knowledge everywhere, we have tools more powerful than ever with AI. And this means we need to learn differently. And that started for me a journey on how learning works actually. And in this journey, I also met my co-founder today. And um, yeah, and with that, actually, we started to build one step by itself. First, a system on how to learn. And the important part here is that we don't lack the knowledge on how learning works. Actually, we know how learning works. And my co-founder, he comes from universities, and he tried to shape them also from within. But it's very hard to change existing systems. It's
Yeah.
very hard to change a school. So if you are even a dean of a school, it's very hard to change the school itself. Because the whole system is built around the current system and the regulation as well. And we thought, if you want to change something, we need to build it literally from scratch. And so that's where we built our own software system, and where we built our own, also integrated all the pedagogy. And we thought also about, because with my background from digital, how can this actually work online? Online means we can bring people across the world together and connect them. And because also the world is more connected than ever. So for us, this was just a key essential part of it. And from that, we created really a university from scratch, literally, for today, for the skills of today, but for a global connected world. But also, what I think you resonates with you, Val, is not just about learning for the sake of learning or connecting for the sake of connecting, but really for starting with your why. Yeah. And then really trying and building this personalized for you, because we are all different. I mean, we are not anymore in an age where we need to have more soldiers, who are all the same. It's just not the case. We are all different. We need to find all our own paths. So also learning needs to be very different for everybody of us. So we designed the whole university around individuals, and how we can support them best, from the beginning to the end. And this means very specifically, this means if you're starting at tomorrow university, the first question you get is why. You will attend mission identification challenge, as we call it, where you think about what's your values, what's important in your life, where can you actually contribute to society. And this is the basis then of everything else what you do. Every class which follows, you will apply what you learn on your own mind. And then we help you to build your board, which means a board of advice who is allowed to advise you on your journey. We will help you to find what are the competencies you have, what are the competencies you need to build your journey. And everything again is like then applying to it, but it's not just learning things. We have no exams, for example, that
No
doesn't
exams.
exist. Yeah, so we have no exams. We have only learning, and then you're applying and creating projects. And
I love that.
so if you submit a project, then you have tutors or experts which give you feedback on your project, so that you grow with the intention to grow, that you grow and to learn. So everything is really geared for empowering every student. And that's what Tomorrow University is about. And we're not just doing this, I don't know, in a local place, but we really believe also this means we need to bring people together, because so many problems around the world, like sustainability, is not like a local problem.
Mm.
Talking about social media and fake news, it's not a local problem, but we can learn from each other. So we want to bring people together, from students we have from Australia to the US to Europe.
Wow. It's incredible. Like, it's so incredible. Like, it just blows my head off because I don't think I've ever heard of any new world paradigm, kind of university, and let alone tomorrow university. I love your jumper, by the way. I want to get one. Purple is my favorite color. And the fact it's called Tomorrow University says to me, trailblazing, here we are, we're reshaping, you're basically revolutionizing education as we know it. And it's such a profound time to be doing that because even listening to you about your son, I even see it in like, the younger generations, whether it's Gen Z, and you tapped into something that was really insightful for me and something I've been kind of, I guess, thinking about a little bit more just of recent in terms of, so we go to uni or we go to school, and yet, especially in uni, and yet we learn all this theory, but where is the practicality of it? And then, push comes to shove, you go for you want to get a job, but you're ill-equipped. You don't have the lived life experience to actually then, test it out. So for me, the theory just goes out the door and out the window because it gets forgotten. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that. And so I love that you're actually no exams, and it's like, learn, and then the practicality of how do projects so that people, because it's the only way you're going to master a skill, strengthen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's just so
Yeah, yeah.
required. Mm.
It's so true that and I have hired many students directly from university, from top schools, and then I ask them, hey, help me with this financial model, for example, here, or help me to solve that problem. And but yeah,
They
tell
can't
me
do it.
how. But I mean, you went to university.
I
Why
know.
should I tell you how? Yeah, but I did an exam, but it doesn't mean I've done it. And that's why I said we really want to make this different. So if students, tomorrow they are doing it and they're doing it multiple times. Um, so that's really how they learn it, and then they actually teach others. Because it's really interesting what happens in your brain. If you one thing is you learn it, okay, remember it eventually, but then you apply it, okay, you're gonna start trying to understand it. But as soon as you want to teach it to somebody else, then really your brain thinks about, okay, what is actually the essence of it? So how do I actually share it? And this is how you will remember it. And then you
Mm.
also will be able to do it. And this is a very different than how you actually leave university, because you're becoming those problem solvers. You're actually able to solve
Yeah.
problems. And that's what you're doing at Tomorrow University. We call it 4 phases. So it starts this orientation phase. This is what you mentioned about purpose, building your board, finding out your competence, learning the foundations. Then you go into the second phase, the calibrations, where you go deep. So you have a personalized learning paths. What are the things actually you want to learn? Um, and then the third phase, you come together with students from who have learned different things, and then you solve larger projects. 3 to 6 months, you're working on larger projects. Where sometimes they are coming from companies, sometimes you as a team of students will do something which you say is really important, and you want to fulfill that. And then the final one, that's the activation, is more or less the thesis you're writing. But instead of a thesis, you have an entrepreneurship lab or you have an innovation lab where you actually parallel around. I want to start a company now. I have this thesis here, so I'm doing it and I'm documenting what I'm doing.
Mm.
And then eventually, once you graduate, you actually started your company, and actually many students are doing this, or have done a substantial innovation project at your company, which can also be the case. But it's really all your path helping you to really achieve your goal. And
Mm.
that's how you are afterwards really capable. You have those skills. You can do things. And what I'm super amazed also about this is that you have also at the same, it's very, learning needs to be very social. Learning is a social thing. We learn best from others and with
Mm.
others,
Mm.
getting this different as perspectives. Yeah. So if you would learn, for example, at tomorrow's university, and you are not based in Australia, with a class, for example, at 6 o'clock in the evening, you would join at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we have somebody from Costa Rica running a coffee plantage, and she would be joining at lunchtime. And then you would have the discussion around this challenge and trying to solve that.
Mm.
So you get also different angles around this.
Mm.
And you have not just learned the skills, you also build at the same time a network around the world. And this really allows you then to have an impact, and as you graduate, really be successful. And at the end, to be honest, I also did this for my son, because I think I don't want that my son goes to university and just has the same iteration of just
Yeah.
learning things by heart, and then it's like for that, for what, you know?
Yeah. So how long does like from the I think is it five components to the degree? I think you called like you talked through
Or yeah,
four. Sorry, four. Yeah. Forgive
yeah.
me. But is it like is it self-paced or like how long does the degree like like a standard degree is what 3 to 4 years or whatever. What's your time frame on your degrees and given that it's so bespoke to the individual, you've personalized it. How does that bit work?
Yeah. So it bachelor is traditional 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And MBA would be 1.5 to 2 years,
Yeah.
depending on how much credits you have before, you know.
Yeah.
And again, it's fully state recognized. Yeah. So you've got a normal bachelor MBA degree with that. Yeah. So that you also can do a bachelor, let's say in AI and sustainable technologies with tomorrow university, and then go to any other school and do the master there.
Wow. And what about the content? Like, how did you, like you and your co-founder, did you create the content together? That would have been interesting in itself. Like, how do you get your certification as Tomorrow University, like in terms of because you're going up against academia and education and universities as we know it. You would have been seen as almost like punk, if you like the challenger. Who are these rogue, potentially like I may be wrong here, but like you are you are absolutely revolutionizing education, right? So that would have been a bit of a challenge in itself with you and your co-founder going, well, we're going to take this on. What was that like? What was that part of actually setting this business, this university up? Or you didn't have those issues?
No, we had. So it is a little bit like with every company to start. It's yes, you need to have the right assets at the right time, but also you need to have a little bit luck, to be honest. Yeah. And for us, the luck was the pandemic. In the pandemic, actually, there was a lot of political pressure on the education system. Yeah. And our education system was challenged in that regard. And we had started it, and we had a partnership with an existing, very, very well esteemed university. And the partnership with the Vienna University of Business and Economics, to be precise, they struggled to deliver online any program, and we helped them to deliver that. And that was already the partnership was that they accredited back then in the first version. Um, and it was working tremendously. The students loved it. We had a lot of students just signing up for that degree program, the joint degree program, and it was a huge success. But with the pandemic, we noticed that they are struggling to keep that openness as it ended. So pandemic ending, and they said, okay, but now you need to come back in person, for example, for ID verification. And then, to be honest, ask a person from Australia to fly to Vienna for an ID verification. It's ridiculous, you know. They will not do it.
Expensive.
And that's where we said, okay, this doesn't work. We need to get our own. We need to become a state recognized university ourselves. And that's when we started the process just in the pandemic, when more or less the political pressure on innovation was the highest. And we had been lucky. I think we talked to a couple of states in Germany. It's a state regulated business. We talked to a couple of states. Um, we talked to the Science Council, and eventually they figured out this is really a very interesting approach, which they would like to support. And based on this, we went through, and this is a long process of accreditation because you need to,
Mm,
more or less, it's a quality assurance process. You need to provide how students learn, what's the outcomes, what are the competencies, you need to prove this. But because also we had this partnership already done, we could prove all of that
mm.
actually that it works. We had the results also in a degree program already, and that allowed us also in a very short period of time actually to become a state recognized university ourselves. So yes, we had, I think, a really amazing team, but again, it comes also to be lucky with the timing because if we would start today again, I'm not sure if the government would be that open to actually accredit it at the beginning because we really challenged a lot of things.
Yeah.
As mentioned, one thing is the exams, but it's also the phases. How
Yeah.
our whole pedagogy is really targeted for learning. That it's not for it's really helping people to grow. That's the
Yeah,
whole
evolve.
optimized on this. Yeah.
Mm. It's incredible. And then what about, I guess, what about the curriculum? Like, how often are you, I mean, we're in this world that's changing so fast, rapidly, right? And you and I you mentioned AI pre-show, there's all this technology and you focus on sustainability, entrepreneurship, and technology. Like what we learnt, 2 months ago versus what we're like, you only have to go onto a program or, using AI in something, and the next thing it's like, oh, it's an upgrade into the operating system or whatever. And so like a lot of it is it feels like it's a lot more intuitive, right? But like, how are
Yeah.
you ensuring that nothing becomes rigid and linear and that it's a constant evolution? Because that's what learning is. We're continuously learning, we're continuously evolving, right?
Yes. Yes, yes, absolutely. So what we are focusing on, and this is also supported by the World Economic Forum, is this 21st century skills. So what are the skills actually in the 21st century, full of AI, internet, high automation, but also large problems? What are the relevant skills actually? And then we come to the three you mentioned, but it's also, for example, about cognitive proficiency. It's also about entrepreneurial thinking and acting. It's also about collaboration, so how good can you communicate? How good can you actually collaborate? It's about self-management, self-leadership. It's a lot about these kind of also soft skills, as traditional they are called, which are really fundamental and more important than ever
Yeah.
in the future, and they will not go away. They will not change that quickly. The next, most likely, our lifetime. So we're focusing on those, especially, and then for sure we have a big variety of skills also available, so that students can focus, for example, more on AI or more on entrepreneurship or
Mm.
more on business, more on marketing, more on design, more on sustainability. Yeah, so we allow students to go deep, but these fundamentals. We teach them everybody. That's the reason why we have this orientation phase, the first phase, where we say, okay, there are some basics we want really everybody to go out of university to have and really practice. Yeah. And we are developing also new programs. So we will announce also at the beginning of next year a new program which is more focused, for example, on the inner development goals, because currently many of our projects are focused on sustainable development goals.
Mm.
But we really think that we need even to go from purpose to consciousness. We want to elevate
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And this is for us something which we again, looking forward, this is something which we believe the world is really needing, and this will allow us also to shape the world together in a very positive way. And that's what Tomorrow University is really about. We think that the future isn't shaped by one company, by one nation, but actually shaped by a lot of people actually, who
By
transform
society.
themselves.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so this is what we want to do, is really to accelerate this transition of the society to become sustainable, also for our planet. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like it's almost like the system has been so disconnected in general, like, education, all of it. And it's like, so many people that I'm talking to on the podcast or, having conversations with, we're all on this mission to interconnect it in a more unified, different, new way that allows us to have happier, more positive lives. And you called out this purposeness or purposeness isn't even a word. Forgive me, it's the end of the year, but purpose to consciousness, it is so required. And I've been having a lot of conversations around soft skills versus hard skills. And it just feels to me,
Mhm.
and I want to get your thoughts on this, but I just kind of go, it's not, they don't even, for me, they're just not right anymore, because like soft skills are just like come across as soft, weak, pathetic. And then there's these hard skills, which are like, but it's like you talked around 21st century skills, but then you also talked around this inner development. It's just like this self-actualization. You
Yeah.
need the foundations of self-actualization.
Yes.
I feel like we completely need to revolutionize soft and hard skills and stop using that language, because it's just, we're separating it. And it's like, no, they have to come together.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, they have to come up. It's one skill set. You're 100% right. We also see this as one skill set. That's the reason why we call it 21st century skills.
Yeah, I love that.
But it needs, it's this kind of combination. And if you're thinking about it, it's so true already today. You know, everybody needs to be really good in communication because the world
Mm,
is so complex. So you need to
mm,
be able
mm,
to really digest what is the essence out of it and communicate that properly. Collaboration. I'm my background actually is software engineer, so I was doing a lot of software development. But you know, the best software engineers are good collaborators. They're good communicators.
mm.
They are able to communicate. And sorry to say this, but software engineering traditionally has not the reputation of have good
No.
communicators, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, really
but if
technical. Like
you,
tech, a little tech, like I shouldn't say,
yes,
but yeah, like, but it's so,
exactly.
yeah, it's wrong.
But
Yeah.
that's also the ones who are getting stuck in their career and they are frustrated eventually, you know.
Yeah.
But the ones who are communicating, they can let's call it architects, you know, tech
Yeah.
leaders, become CTOs. So you need to have those skills, and this needs to be a combination.
Mm,
You cannot leave them out more or less in the future. That's what we're saying, and as we think that actually in the past too often this have been ignored. We focus too much on those kind of hard skills,
yeah.
but it's just not true. You know, it's one-sided. It's not a complete skill set actually,
No.
and that's why I think it needs to be this kind of more holistic skill set which you need to focus on. And it's not if you're thinking about tomorrow. So we give you feedback. Let's talk about the how you learn. It's challenge-based learning. So you start every challenge, which is a course. You start with a project, more or less a challenge.
Mm,
How do you solve? I don't know. How do you uh, let's say something? How do you understand? How do you get funding for your project, for example? And
mm,
that could be a challenge. You know, your project is obviously your why, your mission, and then you for sure need to learn. So then you learn, you know, what are the funding options actually eventually, you know, what are the terms if you get something for this, what are term sheets, how does this work, you know, how to talk to investors, how to
mm,
negotiate.
mm,
And you build this up and you practice this, and then you solve the challenge by actually saying, hey, okay, now I reach out to investors. I know what I want. Yeah. Um, and at the end, you have a submission, a capstone, where you, for example, submit your project, and then you get feedback on your competences. But the competences are not just, I don't know, the financial model is correct, but it's actually about, for example, your communication of
mm.
that. Are you able to communicate very clearly? So we are also combining it in the capstone, and we give you feedback on this so that you can actually grow again your full competence set and not just a part of it.
Yeah, it's almost for me. You're talking about flourishing here. You're talking about thriving in an optimal sense, right? And that's one of my other questions, and I'm conscious I would love to just keep asking questions. There's so much. I'm just loving this conversation. It's very cool and so required in the world. But like for me, we've always been educated, work hard. Like just work hard and you'll succeed. And yeah, it hasn't got us. I mean, working hard, yeah, it can get us to a point, and it did for me. It worked well for a long time, but I was burnt out and I hustled and it was exhausting. And like when you come back to the what you're talking about here, inner development, purpose, consciousness, those fundamentals. Are you also factoring in because entrepreneurship, right? Like we can, as founders, as people building businesses, we can be working 24/7 if we want to. But for me, it's important to step away to have that active recovery. I learned the hard way. Are the younger generations, are they just, is that just innate in them that they know that that's what they've got to factor in, or is that something you're still needing to as part of the curriculum for tomorrow
So
university that
I think
you're Mm,
we're not telling people to work less or more. It's not
yeah.
about how much you work, but you need to know what your body and your mind can do. You
Yes.
know, this
Yeah,
is this kind of consciousness, self-awareness. So, because
exactly.
also for me, I was at 22, and it was for me, for example, much easier to work more than, for example, for me today, I want something different of life as well. I want to combine it to spend with time with my family. You know, and for me, I need to know and consciously make those decisions. What is right for me? And I think this is the 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 mindset, the conversation you want to have with future people. They cannot go all in. They have this kind of dream and they want to have this impact and they want to work 24/7. Okay, great. If they are conscious about what they do and how they do it, that's amazing. If they are aware also, I'm hitting now, it seems like I'm going towards a limit for myself. This is not working out for me. I'm not living healthy.
Mm.
Again, this is they are if you're talking about self-leadership, they are self-reflective. So you
Yeah.
will notice every day how things are going, if is this going into the right direction for you. And I
Mm.
think this is so important that which also makes you not just this sprint and then you burn out, but actually eventually you can really fulfill, have a fulfillment of your life because you're working on something which is important to you, which is
Yeah.
again the purpose, which is so important. But then you combine this with the skill also that you actually can lead yourself,
Yeah.
which is so important. You know how your energy works, how important what
Yeah.
is nutrition making with your body, for example.
Exactly.
What going outside to the sun actually doing with your body. And with this combined, you actually can, and that's then define yourself how you want to sustain or where you want to spend your time and how you want to, um, how much you're chasing profit, how much you're chasing impact and sustainability, how much you're chasing
Mm.
fun. This is the a question we all have. And this, but there is no answer. That's the reason why it's so important to understand what's your purpose, because then you can make those choices much easily and more clearly and not feel, I worked 10 years my ass off at a consulting company and I did forget to totally that they're a family
Yeah.
as well. And this is, and then after 10 years of consulting, you're burned out, you're frustrated, you don't want it anymore. Yeah. So, and we see actually many, also just talking about consulting, we see actually people from consultancy joining Tomorrow University. So many of our students are actually professionals who are joining Tomorrow University, and then they are transforming their life to see also what matters to them and spend and take the
Mm.
time off more or less to think about purpose, to think about and develop the skills where they want to go. That's also what Tomorrow University is a lot about. Having people, helping people who are switching or moving their
Yeah, it's
career to
cool.
something where they think is more impactful. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's really important because then you can have a really impact with your life. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, leadership starts from within, right? You talked around this inner development, your purpose to consciousness. It's like, it's for me, it's like mind, body, soul. It's all got to interconnect, and having that ability to know, like you say, when you're pushing yourself too far, and having that awareness, having the fulfillment, but it all comes from in here. We have all the answers within us. And yet for so long we've been trained and educated that you get it from here, you get it from a book, you get it from this. But actually, when we learn to
Yeah.
understand really who we are,
Yeah.
it,
But
it
it's also important that you're not alone. That this is what I mentioned with the
agree.
social learning, because being on that journey alone and not having somebody you need to have people to spare
Agree.
yourself with, to have
Yeah.
ping pong, have this kind of conversations. Eventually see also how they are doing.
Yeah.
They are also on a similar journey. So how are they doing? And this is, if you're starting, I talked before about mission identification. That's also where mission groups are formed. And
Mm.
mission groups are like students together, and eventually like 10 students together, 8 to 10 students together, and then you're on a mission group, which means you hold each other accountable for your mission. You meet regularly and talk about it. And every student, or many students, they will change their mission because it takes time of experimentation to figure it out,
Yeah.
and it shapes also as your life shapes. But having this kind of conversations regularly, and often those mission groups, they stay not just during the studies, they stay even afterwards,
Later.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you discuss and you see, this is inspiring what he's doing, and how he's dealing with his challenges, because they're also, their life is not like, I don't know, a straight line. You have those challenges in your life,
Non-linear.
something,
Yeah.
sometimes with family, something happens,
Yeah.
which hurts or it hits you, or something with business interrupts, and how to deal with those, or just getting out of your comfort zone if you have a good employment and you're actually frustrating there, just to take this leap, and say, hey, I want to do something. This
Different.
is also very, it's not just courage, but also have people who you can discuss this with. It's so important.
Yeah, I have so many questions, but I'm going to cap it at two more questions. You have you're a co-CEO and a co-founder.
Yeah.
You're the second person I've had on the pod who's a co-CEO. Do you see that as a more future type of role when it comes to a CEO? Like, or have you both chosen to be co-CEOs because of back to like, even what you were just talking about, that mission, the group mission, the team mission, like, yeah, how did you come to being co-CEOs? Was that always just part of the business model?
No, it was a conversation. Thomas and myself are very different, interestingly. So because he's coming from this pedagogy world, he comes from universities, he comes from the education system, he really understands that. I'm really hugely admire that. I come more from the digital space.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you about software engineer,
Mm.
CTO, and a couple of roles, more product building mindset. And for us, it was clear that we see each other actually as on an eye level. We think that we want to we co-founded it and want to lead also the company together. And we want to express this also in our roles. And that's the reason why we said it's a shared CEO role.
Mm.
We are together moving this further. And we have not one person is the company spokesperson outside, for example, but we are both doing this. We are both representing Tomorrow University, and we give it different angles. If you have the same
Yeah,
interview
like,
with Thomas, he will give it a different angle, but it's a beautiful angle as well. And he will share and give it from his perspectives and his journey. And yeah, that's the reason why we said, okay, we really fully see ourselves as equals, and we want to drive this together to a success and impact the world. And that's the reason why we said, okay, we co-founded together, but we also want to be co-CEOs.
no, it's a good response because the reason I ask is, you've talked about lonely a bit, and it's lonely at the top at times, and when you're, I've experienced it. You've got all the weight on your like on your
Yeah.
shoulders to be able to share it with somebody else, like I know co-founder, but CEO on top of it. I like it, and I think that I feel like we're going to see more and more of that, as part of being in this new paradigm as well. Last but not least, you are in the education system. You are completely revolutionizing it. You are constantly sounds like I mean, you've obviously got your family and everything else going on, but how do you get your fresh perspective? How do you step away? How do you so that you can come back in and get into that, what I call the flow state where it becomes effortless? What do you do to give yourself that inspiration? Yeah, to be able to then be at your best back in Tomorrow University.
For me, this is something, so, and yes, you can see this in larger cycles.
Mm.
But for me, it starts every day. So every day for me is kind of reflection. But again, and then on a weekly level, we have reflections. But this is for more for myself. Then with my co-founder, we do it monthly. And we have every month actually one day where we spend together and also reflecting on what works, what doesn't, what's changing the world, what does the world need. Then we have it on a half-year level. We actually do it with the whole team. We call it a vacation where we get the whole team together, thinking about this. And then we have it in a bigger phase, even on the yearly level.
Mm.
Yeah. Because there are, on a daily level, you would look at more small details and what's currently going on. And sometimes you need to think about, hey, how do we shift to eventually Tomorrow University. And we have built Tomorrow University now 5 years. And what are we doing right now is, again, we did a reflection session, a long one actually. Where do we want to see Tomorrow University in the future? And more like for the next 10, 20, 100 years. So we're really looking at a bigger picture. And that's where we actually reflected a lot about the society, about the world,
Mm.
and we are integrating this as things what you're talking about. We call it the 100-year life, but it's about lifelong learning. We
Mm.
talk about consciousness, and how do we want to how purpose needs to come and transform into
Yeah.
consciousness, and how can we support this and to integrate this. Yeah, so these kind of thoughts, that's for us really more like as mentioned yearly, or we don't have this cycle. We have
Mm.
it's the first time we are doing it now, after long after 5 years, yeah. But it's something very important, I think, this kind of reflection. Yeah, what also for us and for the society is so important,
I agree.
and what can
Reflection,
we contribute to that? Yeah,
yeah, reflection and celebration too, like celebrating what you've achieved and
yeah.
how are you adapting and what are you taking into the new year or the year ahead. I think it's brilliant. Oh gosh, what would be have you got any final words of wisdom, anything you want to share with the audience with regards to tomorrow? Let's just call it tomorrow, but like, yeah.
The So we have a lot of students, and I think the the reality is, um, the first step is always the hardest, and I think that what I want to encourage everybody is really to think about, reflect, and then, um, yeah, build the courage to take action. I think this is really the, know so important to reflect, know what you want, and then, um, we have students who are starting with us, but then the step to, for example, start a business, it's a big step, and
Yeah,
it's always with a lot of worries assembled. What is happening? What is happening? What can go wrong? But we see so many people who have done that leap, that things unfold, new opportunities open
yeah,
up.
doors open
You
up.
know, maybe for yourself, because now you start talking about it. You start acting on it, and things are evolving. So what I really can just invite everybody is, spend this time on self-reflection. We have also a mission identification, which is available just as a standalone class, for example. You can just encourage everybody who to work very if on their clarity, and with this clarity, then really start to take action one step. And it can be not starting your company, but learn skills you want. But that's what I would like to, give everybody, because that's really what makes a difference. That's what makes a difference. Not
Agree.
build the clarity and take the first step.
Yeah, I love your passion, Christian. It's amazing, and your purpose. And yeah, it's very, very cool. And purple is my favorite color in the world, by the way. So, I'm feeling the vibes. They're coming
That's good
right
to
through to me. Like, just like, it makes me smile. Christian, how do we find out more about Tomorrow University? You mentioned this mission identification, assuming it's on your website.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If you go to the tomorrow.university, that's the internet address, then you find it also in navigation, directly mission identification, challenges, exactly.
Excellent. And we can find you on LinkedIn.
Yes, please connect me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian, yeah, it's amazing and incredible. Are you the only university in this new paradigm, or is there other universities out there? Or are you like the pioneers?
We really hope to inspire a lot of universities. We think that every university needs to adopt to this model actually in the next
Yeah,
10 to 20 years,
yeah,
and we think they will do. But and we hope it's just 10 to 20 years, to be
trailblazing.
honest.
Yeah,
But one of the ideas of Tomorrow University is also to inspire, to be this kind of lighthouse project, because it's something which is
yeah,
doable, and we can make this also in a regulated space. That's also what we want to show. We want to show that it can be done in a regulated space where you have the quality, the assurance that they get a degree,
yeah,
you can have a job with that. At the same time, while actually learning really for yourself and for your future.
yeah. Very cool. No, I love it. Yeah, I'm sure I'll talk to you more, and yeah, it's fascinating. But congratulations, what an achievement, 5 years in and reshaping and
Thank you.
revolutionizing education, and these the next generation of leaders. I just can't wait. It's an exciting time to be alive, if you ask me. As much as there's all this craziness that goes on in the world, there's endless possibility, opportunity, and if we all unify as a society, imagine what's possible. So thank you, Christian. Have a wonderful end to the year, and yeah, enjoy your holidays. If
Th- Thank you, B, so much. It was a pleasure to be here, and also to everybody here. Have a good,
Thank
great
you.
holiday season.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Thanks.